So, it's time for Carving Up the Context, our midweek segment. As the great prime time, Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, I still can't hear the music through my earbuds. Maybe it's my earbuds. I don't know. But on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, this is a perfect segment or a perfect topic for this segment because in many ways it's why I created it in general. Because of the simple fact that you have sometimes some narratives floating around that need to be dispelled because they're simply not true. So I've heard, I'm not going to name any names. They're pretty easy to find. I've heard many pundits, many people of whom I have great regard and great respect for in the national media that have peddled this notion. It's been the topic on some debate shows. Is the Dallas Cowboys, is that if the Dallas Cowboys win on Sunday, beat the Washington Commanders, the 4-win Washington Commanders, I might add, who the Cowboys beat by 5 touchdowns on Thanksgiving the last time they met. If they win that game, they clinch the 2 seed, and they clinch the NFC East. Were they lucky in doing so? Really? Or are we doing this whole luck thing again? And the reason that's questions being asked is A, you had the ending with the Lions and the Cowboys, and that it wasn't, let's just put it this way, regardless of how you stand on it, it wasn't officiated perfectly. The ending between Detroit and Dallas and the 2-point conversion and who reported as eligible, who did it, who tried to trick who. It wasn't officiated perfectly, right? We all agree on that. Combined with the fact that the Eagles lost 4 or 5 games to open the door for the Cowboys to run through and have a shot at the NFC East and the 2 seed, which is so important for this Cowboys team to potentially go on a run. Did the Cowboys get lucky? If you want to say they got lucky in the Lions game, I won't fight you on that. But as I always say on this show, this whole notion of being lucky all of a sudden diminishes how good you are, I think it's hilarious. It's what I've always said this about. Is there an asterisk next to this team's championship? No. Every single team that has ever won a championship has gotten lucky to a certain degree. Every single one. You're like, even like the most dominant teams? Yes. You know how I know that? Because their star players were healthy. Their key players, their key guys, at least most of them, were healthy enough to compete at a high level and win a championship. Every single champion has gotten lucky. We're not even talking about championships now. You know, it's what's his name? Said playoff. Was it Jim Mora? Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? Well, both teams are in. Dallas, Philadelphia, no matter what happens, they're in the playoffs. And Dallas, again, has a chance to win the division, has a great shot to win the division against Washington. I would almost flip that question on its head. Not only did the Cowboys not get lucky to win the division, hey, I could argue they got a touch unlucky that it took this long. You're like, what are you getting at, Bryson? I'll tell you exactly what I'm getting at. And again, I'm not diminishing this team because they got lucky, because every team gets lucky. I'm simply stating the facts. This play right here. Now, for the podcast audience, it's the play where Marquez Valdes-Scantling drops the pass that probably would have gone for the game-winning touchdown against Philadelphia with under 2 minutes to go on that Monday night game. Right there, that picture right there, looks like he's got the ball in his hands, right? Nope, he dropped it. Marquez Valdes-Scantling dropped a pass, a wide-open throw, perfect throw by Patrick Mahomes that probably would have resulted in the game-winning touchdown against Philadelphia. Did the Eagles get lucky? No question about it, but I don't fault them for it. We don't have the other play. I was not able to get a good image of it, and it wouldn't have given the best picture of this. But when the Eagles played the Bills just 1 week later at home, remember the play in overtime where the Bills are driving? The Bills get the ball first in overtime, and we all know if you score a touchdown in overtime, you win the game. Bills are going down the field. They're marching. They're driving down the field, converting on 3rd down against this awful Eagles defense. Josh Allen throws a deep ball to Gabe Davis. Now, Gabe Davis, number 2 receiver for the Bills, is wide open. Wide open. Whether it was Allen or Davis, whatever it was a miscommunication. Either Davis ran the wrong route, Josh made the wrong read, whatever the case may be. They weren't on the same page. Had they have been, Buffalo would have won that game. And if Buffalo would have won that game, we'd be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles as losers of 6 of 7. and a potential to, I don't think the Eagles would have missed the playoffs at that point, but they would have been at least on the ropes. Probably wouldn't have been the 5 seed. That would likely go to the Rams at this point, given how it's all played itself out. Again, I think the luck actually kind of went against Dallas all season long. Heck, you could even say when the Eagles played the Cowboys the first go-around, if Schoonmaker, the tight end for Dallas, is literally, and I'm not exaggerating here, folks, literally inches, 2 inches away, closer to the goal line, that's a touchdown for Dallas that they did not score otherwise. If Dak Prescott does not step out of bounds on a 2-point conversion attempt, that's another 2 points. Now, the game ebbs and flows, and that's not to say, oh, Dallas lost by 5. You combine those 9 points, they would have won by 4 points. Like, it's every play dictates what's going to happen the next play. So the whole flow of the game would have changed, obviously. I think Dallas might have actually gotten a little unlucky that it took this long. Is there good fortune that went their way in the sense that the Eagles lost to a bad Cardinals team? Yeah. But first of all, I picked that to be the case. And second of all, when you're that bad defensively, you're going to drop some games down the stretch. When teams know how to expose you on that side of the ball, when you got 2, 3, 4 units, I shouldn't say 2, 3, 4. Well, you got 2 units, your linebacking core and your secondary that are objectively bad. Don't be shocked if they expose it. And that's exactly what Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals were able to do. It's what the Seahawks were able to do on that last drive, targeting James Bradbury to go win the game with Drew Lock at quarterback. It's what Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott did the second meeting against Philadelphia. It's what Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy did when the Niners came into Philadelphia and kicked their teeth in. Some of it's luck, sure. Some good fortune did go to Dallas, but more went to Philadelphia, and they still couldn't take advantage of it. So, yeah, the better team's winning the division. It's kind of like Michigan, Alabama, where there were some things that Alabama did, or I should say some things that Michigan did that Alabama had nothing to do with. Fumble punts, missed field goals. Bama had virtually no impact on some of those plays. None. Michigan just screwed up, and they still won the game. Why? Because they were the better team. They made just enough plays, despite their mistakes, to win the game. The same can be said about the Dallas Cowboys. They did just enough to beat Detroit, despite shooting themselves in the foot multiple times. By the way, guess what? Philadelphia did just enough to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and just enough to beat the Buffalo Bills. Check back the tape on that show, on those shows. Excuse me. I said the Eagles got lucky. Didn't fault them for it, though. Plenty of teams get lucky wins in the NFL. And in sports, it happens. There's 272 games. Somebody's going to get lucky at some point or another, even the best teams. I don't fault the Eagles for that. But I'm also not going to turn around and fault the Cowboys for it. And also say that down the stretch, when coordinators have more film than they could ever have on you, when one team's getting exposed, the other team, while treading water just a little bit, 2-2 in their last 4 games with the Cowboys, you find out who the better team is, and we hope the better team wins the division, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So in this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, sure, did the Cowboys get somewhat lucky against Detroit? Yeah, they did. They had some good fortune go their way. But the fact that it took this long for the Eagles to eventually have the bad luck go their way when the good luck had been coming in might have been actually a little unlucky for Dallas, but because they're a better team, they're going to win the division. That's my point. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.